Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So I'm very happy to be here and to introduce this great conference, and I think it's very important to share. So I'm going to try to share a little bit of our experience and to explain you more of how and why we start this experiment. So mainly my background, okay, I have been mainly studying physics in most of French-based school, and after I went to USA, I did UCLA and Stanford. And at the end of the day, I never work in the physics field. Okay, I went by, I would say, luck or by circumstance. I went to work in IT. And I found one of the first IT cybersecurity company in France, which is still the leader one in France. It's called Intrinsec. We are in 90s, 1992 or something like that in France. So I was an entrepreneur with a cybersecurity company. And our first problem was that we didn't find any human resource. So mainly we had a lot of clients which were asking us to make missions and to find solution of their problem. And it was almost impossible to find in France people who were able to fulfill those skills. So, and the company was very successful. And we were stuck with all those missions, couldn't get them done because we didn't find the people. So what I did at this time, we start to try to say, okay, we have to train people to make it possible, okay? So I start to find students and train them. It was quite difficult because we were a company and most students would like to go to university or stuff like this. So we start to have partnerships with some universities. So I start to teach in French university. And in France, we have a system of where there is university and what we call big schools, which are the best school in French. We are not exactly universities. They are a little bit above university. So I start to teach in those schools. So we find students. That was quite good stuff. But the problem with that is it's a very, very rigid system. So it's very difficult in a normal university in France to bring a new process of education and a new field, okay? Because there is accreditation and all kind of stuff. So we start to do it a little bit aside, and then I start to do it in a private institution, so which is called EdTech, and it's now ranking first in IT in France. Okay, so I founded the school EdTech in France 20 years ago, and now it's ranking first in IT, mainly because of very simple stuff. We did a new process of education. What is a new process of education? Mainly the idea was to have a very more applied and a very more hands-on education. Because mainly what we see in the university and this big school in France is we had a very strange situation in around the end of 90s because we had a lot of startups in France starting, so they ask talent. And we had something with very strange. The best students in the universities, the one who had the best grades, were the worst in the company. And most of the worst were the best in the company. So it was kind of very unusual first, because we used to have a quite range of best students getting the best job. Okay? So we were in a situation where we had to change. And this change was very difficult inside the university because of the regulation. So we start to have a private school to make it. Okay? And now this private school ranking first in France and in the 10 best in Europe. Mainly what we did, we brings knowledge of company inside the schools and start to have projects. So this school run for 20 years. It's called EdTech. It's run very well. I manage it for 20 years. And it has branch in 30 countries. So we have branch in China, we have branch in Japan, we have branch all over the world, and it works pretty well. But still, it's a private school. That means that we take students from mainly rich family, because it's quite expensive, and also students who have very good grade in high school, like 1 out of 1,000 best students in France. So, but the school was very successful. So that's not a That's a quite standard story, okay? When it starts to change, it's in this school EdTech, we have met a French foundation. It's called Zubdeco, but it doesn't mean anything. So a French foundation came to see us and say, okay, guys, you are doing a really great job for rich people and for quite good students. And me, as a foundation, I am taking care of poor people and people who drop out, people who didn't get high school graduation. Can we do something together? Okay, I was managing the school at this time. I was kind of promoting a way of teaching, which was unusual. So I was saying that it's better to teach another way. And this guy came to see me and say, okay, maybe your way of teaching will work with my people who are unfitting in the normal education system. So we start this program, very short program, like 100 students, and it works wonderfully. It means that we took students, so just to imagine we take students who didn't graduate high school. Most of them drop high school around 15, 16. In France, you have to go to school to 16, okay? So in the year of 16 or 15, 16, you can drop school. So most of the students drop school at 15 or 16. They are from poor background, so they are not living in Paris, they are living around Paris, okay? Usually, in France, at this time, most people would say we can't do anything with those students. They will work as a shopper, they will work in pizza stuff or whatever, but you don't imagine them to work in IT, okay? So we did try, okay? So we use the same process of education that are normal students, but we make it shorter because the foundation has not enough money to finance a 5-year education, and we start this stuff. Okay, after 2 years, so the first students came to market. It works wonderfully. All of them find a job. Okay, and when I say a job, they find an IT job, so it means like they were, I don't know the average, but in France they have salary around 2,000 euro a month, okay, which is quite good. Okay, most of them couldn't expect to have more than 1,000, so they were twice what they would expect in normal time. So it was a very good success. And we were very lucky because one girl in this program ended up working in one of the best IT companies in France. It's called Free. It's one of the most technical companies. It's a telecom operator. And after 1 year in this company, she was part of the best team of the company. So in the company, they have a team of the best innovative people to make the new product and stuff like this. After 1 year, she was part of this team. This team is 10 persons. Okay? This company is a company which wins like 4 billion euro a year, so it's a big company, works pretty well. And she was part of this team. First, it was very physically different. She was like 23. Okay? Most of the people in this team are more like 40. She was a girl. There was no girl before in this team. And she was not looking, she has long hair with like dread hair, you know, this kind of dress stuff. So she was and she was very pretty, very pushy. So you could see her in the team, you say, okay, well, that's very strange. What is she doing here? Okay? And she was part of this team. And one day she has to speak to the boss of the company, the owner. Okay, it's called Xavier Niel. He's one of the 10 richest guys in France. And one day she was kind of speaking to him to speak about a new product that she was promoting a new product. And he asked her, what did you do before? Okay, which in France is very usual. When you meet someone, first thing you say, you ask is, what is your degree, what did you do, what school, and whatever. So he asked her, what's your background? And she answered, 2 years ago, I was selling pets in a pet shop. Okay, she was a seller. She was really selling hamsters. Okay, so imagine you are the boss of one of the most technical companies in France. You are supposed to have the best engineers in the country. You are taking them from the best school. Some are from America and everything. And you have one girl in the middle who is one of your best engineers who tell you that she was selling pets 2 years ago. It's kind of insane. Okay, should not happen. So this guy called me, and he asked me, what's going on? Is it a miracle? Is there only one like her? What's going on? I want to understand because I don't know how it's in Korea, but in France it's very, very difficult to find IT talents. Really, really, there is a big lack. So all entrepreneurs in IT, it's like me before, the first problem was to find those talents. Okay, so I explained him, okay, no, it's not a miracle. We train like 100 each year, and she was not one of the best. She was good, but not best. And he told me, okay, I want to see others. So we went to see some of them, and we had students working in Facebook, some students, I remember we went to GoPro and other company, and he spoke with the employers and said, okay, they are great. He said, okay, why do you do only 100? France need 1,000 of them. I say, okay, Xavier, it's very simple. It's a question of money. We don't have the cash. It's a French foundation who finance. They can pay only 400. We do 100. If we have more money, we will do bigger. So the guy said, okay, but we need 10,000 of them. Okay, let's say we want to have 10,000 of the students for the next 10 years. How can we do? How much will it cost? So I make the price and say, okay, it will cost around 100 million euros. Say, okay, do it. Okay, so we start School 42. So that was 6 years ago. So we start School 42 with the goal to train 10,000 students to be people part of the best IT coders. So we started that way from scratch. Now we are 6 years later. So what happened? First, so we start this, and we said, okay, we are going to take students without taking care of any background. That means that we are selecting students with no question. When a student applies to 42, we don't know anything. I've said his name and his email and his age. That's it. Okay? We make some age limitation, mainly because of French regulation. Under 18 is very complicated in France. You have different security rules. And after 30, you are not supposed to be student. So you don't have healthcare and all kind of stuff, which is a little bit complicated. You have to have so it's much easier when you start to take students between 18 and 30. So it's what we did. Actually, we take students without any background concern. We said we were not going to give any degree. Okay, so we thought when we start, mainly I was coming from private education in France, and we were giving a master degree and a PhD. So in my head, I was thinking most students seek for the degree. So when we start, I said to Xavier, if we say we don't give any degree, we won't have students. Okay, none. Okay, he said, okay, I promise you, Nicolas, we will find some students. You will have like at least 300,000 or 400,000 students. It's okay. At the end of the day, we had 100,000 first week appliers. Okay, so it works just amazingly. So we select those students. After we did something a little bit special. So we have a school in Paris where we have 1,000 students each year starting, where there is no teacher. Okay, no teacher. Zero teacher. Zero mentor, zero tutor. There is only students. Okay, so there is no one to manage the students. Okay, it means that there is absolutely 100% peer-to-peer education. What does it mean? It means that students together are creating their own knowledge. It's not, a lot of people think it's the students who know who explain the students who don't know. It's not that at all. It's students who don't know who are going to create knowledge all together in a group. Okay, so it's a peer-to-peer learning construction. It's not I take students for third years to teach students for first years. The students for third year don't speak to students of first year. They can speak, of course, but it's not in the process. There is no curriculum. What it means that each student makes its own path. And we start that way, okay? And it was a very great success, okay? So we had a lot of students want to apply, and all of them find jobs. A lot of companies are fighting to hire them. We have companies like Google, Facebook, Apple, or whatever who come in France to select students for USA. So it's a really great success for education. So the stuff has been quite mediatized. There is a lot of media issue and a lot of articles, a lot of TV show and stuff who came. And we start to have other countries asking to start schools. So now there is 20 schools open worldwide. There will be soon one in Korea, but there is in Japan, there is in USA, you have in mainly all European countries, and it's growing and it's working very well. Now today, you have 10,000 students who are engaged in a 42 process somewhere in the planet. So the stuff is working very well. If I try to go a little bit deeper, what do I think today? Okay, what is important in this process of education? The first thing which is very important to understand for me is I do believe that knowledge is totally unuseful. So that means in 42 we don't transmit knowledge. It's a non-transmitting knowledge school, which is a little bit strange for most of the education system. But I really believe that today, knowing it's totally unuseful because it's easy to find the knowledge. So when you need something, you can find it. You have good interface, and what is just to get a little bit farther, we have very good interface to knowledge, but we are just at the starting of this. So that means in few years, we will have neuronal interface. That will mean that you will just have to think of something and get the knowledge of the humanity about this thing. Okay, today it's very slow because you have to go through Google or whatever, but still, if you are in IT field, when you are in front of a problem, the best way is not to know the solution, is to get knowledge and to build the solution out of this knowledge. Okay? Worse than that, in our field, I speak only on IT now. In IT, knowledge is dangerous. Why is dangerous? Because the knowledge is changing all the time. Okay? And you are not able to find a stable base of knowledge. Even what people think they are calling bases is changing. Even mathematics behind is changing. So it means that when you teach someone a knowledge, you make him in danger for a very short future. Okay, so it's very important at the end that students are able to find their knowledge and to be able to understand that this is not stable knowledge. Okay, so in 42, the fact that we remove the knowledge and we make the students to find it themselves make two things. First, they are able to find it, but second, they always question this knowledge and make it stronger each time. Okay, that means that when they, for example, if you ask a student to solve something, he will find a solution, which is the best the day he finds it, but he will know that it's only the best this day. That means if you ask him the same thing 2 years later, he will do a new solution which is different, which is very important. We have in company, and I have driven IT companies, it's one of the best or worst situations. You receive young people, they are able to find solution, but 2 years later, they do the same thing. Okay, which is totally insane. And if, for example, you speak about cybersecurity, it's the worst situation. Sometimes 3 months later, the best solution is the worst. So you have to have very adaptive people. Okay, and the traditional education system don't make that. Make students who just apply rules, and when they have a set of rules, they think it's forever. Okay, this is totally insane in our field. I do believe it's the same in most fields. Just the timeline is not the same, okay? Of course, in physics, the physics change. But an engineer who is using, for example, even 100 years ago knowledge can make a bridge, okay? Because the physics is changing, what we know about physics is changing, but it's changing slowly, and it's still what was true at this time is still true. It's not the best, but it's still true. In IT, it's not true. Something which was true 2 years ago, it's today wrong. And make something which doesn't work. I don't know if I am clear, but just to imagine, if you take, for example, you take an architect from Roman time, you teleport it today, you ask him to make a bridge, he can make a bridge, doing exactly what he was doing 3,000 years ago. Or maybe more 2,000 years ago, sorry. Okay? But if you take an engineer in IT, you take it 5 years ago, you bring it today, he can't. Everything he does doesn't work. Okay, so it's very different. Okay, the process is faster. So that's the first point. Knowledge is unuseful. The second thing, which is very important, we need to have students now in IT. What you expect of IT human resource, you don't expect them to make a software. You expect them to co-create a software with the rest of the companies. I mean, most of the time when we start a project, we don't know exactly what it will be at the end. Because we are in a competitive system, and what you buy at the end is the innovation. So you need to have those people innovative. But worst of it, I do believe that we are out of individual innovation. That means individual innovation, okay, it's not enough. When you get what you get out of individual people in innovation, it's not good because it's already done. You need to have a group innovation. You need to co-create, to create something which is co-creation, which is collective intelligence. The normal education system brings students to work alone and to work against each other, which is exactly the opposite of what you need in a company. So you have to restore in some way the fact that people co-create situations. It's exactly what we do in 42. In 42, we give students challenge, and they make a team to solve this challenge. But they will make it in a team, and they will be in competition with other teams. So it means that if they are not efficient, it doesn't work. Individually, they can't make anything. There is no individual grade and no individual success, okay? Which is very important to understand this. It's one, at the end of the day, what they get out of 42, it's more how to work and to interact with others, how to correctly behave, because it's a community, so if you have unethical behavior in the community will reject you, and it's how to create value out of your interaction with others. That's the most important thing that you get in the stuff, okay? That is very interesting because, for example, and also you get, doing that, a lot of self-confidence. We had, in France, we had one of the first startup created by students. So just to have an idea, in 42 now, students are creating companies. We have around 1/3 of students who create a company out of the school. It makes around 100, 200 companies each year, and they are quite successful. And one of the first of company which was resale was sold to SAP. You know, SAP is a German company. So they bought a company from a group of our students. They bought it 40 million euro. It's kind of a chatbot for finance stuff. And so there was 2 founders of this company, 2 girls and a boy. So the girl was working as a hair cutter before, and the boy was working as a pastry. Okay, and they create a company and sell it 40 million euro 4 years later. And the girl was interviewed on TV, and they asked her, but okay, you were a hair cutter, and now you run a company, which is running pretty well. What did you learn at 42? What happened? And she said, I didn't learn much. I just learned that I could do anything. Okay, so it's a mindset. We change more mindset of people interacting with people and having this structure. That real. So for example, we don't have any class which is called entrepreneurship, and we have 30% of entrepreneurs at the end, which is much better than HEC, which is the best entrepreneur school in France. So because they live it. You don't make people learn to explain how you do stuff. You make to live it. For example, we have another question. For example, you have an ethical class. Okay, if in most business school in France, you will have an ethical class. In 42, we don't have ethical class, but they live ethics. They have to be ethic for the group, or it doesn't work. If you are not trustful, people will reject you. Okay, and at the end of the day, if you follow an ethical class, okay, you listen to someone who explain you that you have to be fair and everything, and if you see at the end, it's not really working. We have a very big problem of corruption with most of the people trained in these schools, and so it's much stronger to live really the stuff and the interaction with human beings than to be seated in a class and to be the most best students in a class where they explain you that you should not. You should share. And at the end of the day, you can even still get grades which depend only on you. Okay, so it's kind of, you are kind of on a dual constraint in any class, normal scale in a school in Europe at least. So that's what happened in 42. I would say also, which is very important, is they are really interconnected. I mean, for example, when a student of 42 has a problem, first reflex will be to connect to the network and ask to people if they already have those problems. And, so it's more a community than a school. So that's mainly what I have to get out of this 42. After 42, so I went out of 42 after 5 years. Why did I get out? Mainly because it was working perfectly. And I had a teacher in like time who explained me that when everything is fine, it's time to leave. They don't need you anymore. So when I get out of 42, it was going to get like, mainly when I left, there was 20 schools, and we know that will be 50 in the next 5 years. There will be like maybe 20 or 50,000 students worldwide. So everything was fine. The problem of 42, it's if you want to make it much larger, and I want to, and especially in place like There is place like Africa where you have 100 million young people to train. 42 is based on philanthropy, so it means that you have to have. So now we have 20 schools. It means that in each country you have someone who gave money. It's usually rich people, sometimes it's companies, and even sometimes it's state. It's quite unusual to have state, because for state it's quite complex because they don't give degree. But usually it's limited. For example, just to figure out in France, okay, if you take France, in France, in 42 we have each year around 50 to 70,000 appliers. Out of those 50 to 70, we have a process of testing. Mainly we could take 15,000. But we take only 1,000. So that means we could make 15,000. Only in Paris. Okay, Paris is not all France. So it means that in France you could have at least 50,000 kids that could be trained each year. It's not possible because we don't have the finance it, because it's financed by generosity. And out of it, if you want to make this in Africa, it doesn't work because you don't find anyone who agree to give 10 million euros each year to train kids free for nothing. Okay, so we have to reinvent the model and to find a way to finance the stuff. So it's why I quit 42 and I create another company. It's called 01. It's called Zone 01. And it targets to use the same process of education, which is quite efficient and also very, very easy to scale because there is no teacher. Okay, if you, for example, you take Africa, one of the biggest problems in Africa, there is no teacher. So you can't have money, you can start school, you can't find the teachers, there is none. They are not in the stuff. Most of people who know IT go out and go to Europe or to USA. So how do we start? We start to say, okay, we have to finance the school. So most of the process of traditional financing school is to make the student pay. This is not possible because those students don't have the money. And the talent, it's not where there is the money, okay? It's everywhere. So what we start a school where mainly what we do is to have partner with the students. We work like a football club. We say, students, okay, I will make online tests and I will identify the people who I think have talent. Then we have a process to identify better, and we arrive to select students with like 90% chance to have them to be good IT people. And we make a contract with them. We say, okay, I will train you for free for 2 years, and you will work for me for 2 years. Okay? So, and we will share your revenue like a IT, HR company. And with this money, okay, we will make other schools. Okay? So we start this process now. We are opening school. Our first school is opening now in Kazakhstan. We are going to open like 20 schools in Africa in the next year. Okay? And each one of the schools will create another school, which will create another school. And we plan to have around 1.5 million people trained in the next 10 years, mainly in Africa. Okay? We focus mainly in Africa. We have other contact in other places worldwide, but now we were mainly focused for France. You know, Africa is very natural because a lot of people speak French. We have a lot of relation with them, so it's quite natural to go to Africa in this. But we have also other contact. For example, we are now dealing with people in Thailand and whatever. But mainly, that's the idea. But the idea is to use the added value created, which at the end is the knowledge of students and the capacity of creativity of students, to finance the process of scaling, which is, it's very good to have sponsors and stuff like that, but it's always limited because sponsors have limit, and usually they are driven by ego problems. That means that when you fulfill the ego, they don't want other people to do it, okay? Because if they have something which is wonderful, if you spread it, you lose value for them, okay? So you are in a contradictory situation, okay? But if your grow process come from the value you create, it's infinite. It will go until you have fulfilled the problem. Okay, that's what we are doing now in School 42, in School 01, sorry. Okay, I'm very happy to have shared this. I'm ready to answer to any of your questions. Thank you very much.
네. 네, 그럼 지금부터 Q&A 세션 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 제가 그 강연 들으면서 계속 Q&A 확인하고 있었는데요. 질문이 하나도 안 들어오다가 마지막에 하나가 들어왔습니다. 여러분들 아무래도 강연 들으시면서 바로 질문하시기 어려웠을 수도 있을 것 같아서요. 지금 강연을 다 들은 시점에서 내가 좀 궁금했던 점이 있었다 그러면은 지금 이 시간을 활용해서 간단하게라도 질문을 올려주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 아마 강연 중에 가장 키 메시지가 피어 러닝이었잖아요. 그런 차원에서 저희도 이 세션을 서로 배워가는 그런 세션으로 활용했으면 좋겠습니다. 첫 번째 또 들어왔네요. 네, 감사합니다. 제가 첫 번째 질문 들어온 거 영어로 들어왔습니다. 이거부터 먼저 설명드리도록 하겠습니다. What kind of conflict among students in Echo 42 were happened and how were they solved? What did they learn from this conflicting solving process?
Okay, so one, actually in School 42 we have it's very strange because I hear myself. So in School 42 we have very low conflict level of students. This is something which was surprising for us. Even, for example, you know, in your school, so just imagine 42 school in Paris is 3,000 students. They live in the same school. Usually you have a lot of disciplinary problem. Okay, I was running EdTech. Okay, in Paris is 1,000 students. In France is like 6,000. We used to have a lot of disciplinary problems. We used to have disciplinary committee to solve them. In 42 we almost have none. And we tried to understand what was going on exactly, because it was kind of perturbing at start to say, okay, what's going on? We don't have conflict. We also, for example, something which is very impressive, we don't have any kind of degradation. You know, like in a school, traditionally you have students, they will tend to write on the table, break stuff and stuff like this. Okay? In 42, I have been managing School 42 for the last five years. For example, we didn't change a chair. Okay? We did not have to change a chair in the school for 5 years. In School EdTech, we used to change, I would say, like 10 to 15% share each year. Okay, wait, what's going on? What happened? So we spoke to a lot with students. You have also to understand in 42 schools, most of the decisions are taken by students' committees. Okay, they organize how they decide stuff. So I have this question. I asked to the students, what's going on? What do you think happened? So what happened is, I think it's the fact that there is no teacher, no administration, makes students more responsible. It means that when they see another student do something bad, in a normal school, they will say, okay, that's the problem of the administration, what the administration is doing, they are not doing their jobs, they let people make noise or whatever, so their responsibilities. In 42, they will manage it. For example, in 42, we have a lot of big room with computers, and the students say, okay, there is too much noise in those rooms, so they decide to make a silent room, and they make a software which make it run. Okay, so they take their own responsibility and they manage it at the low level. So it means that most of the conflict are managed really at start. Also, another part which is very important, in 42 we don't have any kind of attendance. Means students can get in and out whenever they want. Which means that when the students don't feel that he's supposed to be in school, he get up, he get out of the school, and no one will tell him nothing. It seems to be like nothing. I think it's really deeply important, because when you make students sit in a room that they don't want to be in, because they have to be there because of attendance, they get anger. They are constrained. And I think this anger, they tend to return it to other people around. So you make the anxiety of the global community very low, because if they don't want to be there, they go away. And no one will tell them. And when they come back, they come back. So you have only in the place, only engaged students, which is very important. Another part, a lot of people, and when we start that, a lot of people will say, okay, you don't ask students to be here, they won't come. Okay, we force students to be in class, because if you don't force them, they won't be here. There is no reason to force people. At the end of the day, if you look at the figures, a normal student in 42 will spend between 60 to 70 hours a week in the school, which is almost twice what you get in a normal university in France. Okay, so that means that if you don't force students, they will be more present than if you force them. Okay? But they will be engaged. They will be there whenever they want and when they feel they need to do something. And I think this is part of why it reduces conflict and why it makes them very more simpler to manage. There is still conflict, of course. Okay? And after what we did to manage conflict, we make mainly a process of students managing conflict. So when, for example, two groups are disagree on something, we will select another group of students who will decide what to do. And this will be done by a software. Okay, so we have a platform, a software, which manages all interaction between students, and it works pretty well up to now.
Okay, thank you very much. 이제 질문이 아주 많이 들어오고 있어가지고요. 제가 아마 이 시간 내에 좀 소화하려면은 조금 빨리 진행을 해야 될 것 같습니다. 아주 많은 공감을 받고 저도 사실 들으면서 궁금했던 게 이분이 말씀하시면서 선생님도 없고 교육과정도 없고 이런 말씀하셨거든요. 그리고 학위도 주지 않는다고 했던 것 같은데요. 그 질문에 대해서 많이 들어왔습니다. 물어보도록 할게요. 선생님이 없이 교육이 된다는 게 굉장히 놀랍습니다. 구체적인 모습이 아직은 잘 상상이 안 되는데요. 학생들이 어떻게 배우는지 좀 더 자세하게 말씀해 주시기 바랍니다.
Okay, that's really the main question. Why and how do people learn when there is no teacher? Okay, the question is more. I would reverse it. Why do we need a teacher to learn? Okay, we learn to walk, we learn to speak. Okay, just to related stuff. Okay, I did a little bit of cognitive psychology. To learn how to speak, it's much more complex than to learn how to code anything. And we did learn by ourselves. When a student cross a street, okay, when you make the fact to cross a street without being killed, it uses more cognitive skills than any math problem of college. That means that each student who arrives in the college, who is physically present alive, has the capacity to solve all the problems you ask them. If they don't solve it, it's because you don't get the interest. Okay? So the real question is we are as humans native learners. Okay? So we don't need the teacher. We need only to make people understand they need to learn. Okay? And mainly what we do at 42, we make a playful environment where the fact to solve high-level challenges, it's rewarded by the community. Okay? And in this situation, you learn. For example, just imagine, I don't know if you know World of Warcraft. It's a big game. The challenge in World of Warcraft are much more complex than most IT challenge. And million of young people are solving those problems for no win, just a pleasure. Okay? So mainly you have, if you look at the psychological part, you have two ways to make someone do something. Either you force him and you make him afraid. And that's what you do in most of the education system. You say people, okay, if you don't work well, if you don't do what I tell you, you will have bad grades. If you have bad grades, you will fail. If you will fail, you don't get the degree. If you don't get the degree, you won't have a job. If you won't have a job, you will die by hunger. Okay, so the guy says, his brain, he says, okay, guys, I want to eat, so be nice, do what the teacher says. That's a good way to make people do stuff. And it's very efficient to make people disciplined. It's very efficient to make people to do basic stuff. The other way is to make people want it, to have pleasure. Okay? But now we know that you can't get in the first process a creativity. You make very good robots, very good obedient people. But if you want to make them creative, if you try to force, it doesn't work. And now psychologists have been speaking about that for a long time, but now we know it for fact because we can see in brain imagery, we can see that when you make someone fear, you block all his creative capability. Okay? I don't know if you already did what we call a stress test. I don't know, but in 42 we do a lot of stress tests for students. I mean, you make students in a very stressful situation. Okay? For example, there is a fire in the room. Okay? And you ask them to do very basic stuff. You will see it's very difficult. You will see it's, and we have we do a game which is very interesting, which is you put students in the fire room. Okay, we do that with a French fireman, and there is a glass, okay, and where you can see what happened. And we have a group of students doing it. Okay, they have a list of stuff to do, very simple, and you have other students who watch them. And if you look at the students who watch, they say, "Wait, it's easy. Do that, do that." And the guy inside the room, when there is smoke and stuff like this, they are just not moving. Okay, because they are in a frightened situation. Okay, most of the time, while you are afraid, you just don't do anything. Okay, so when you are in a situation where you are afraid to fail in education, you're doing exactly the same thing. Most of the students will kind of shut a big part of their capability. When you make it playful, you open all the capability, and students get more creative. They can take risks. If they fail, it's no problem. In 42, if they miss a project, they will miss it, and they will do another one, and they will try again later, or whatever. And no one will tell them, okay, you have to do that, and whatever. They made their own choice, okay? Of course, there is, at the end of the day, they have a level, they have stuff which makes them show what they fulfill, but there is no this kind of constraint of timing, of pressure. They will organize themselves, okay? And it makes them able to get out much more. A second part, so that is, I think, the psychological part B. There is another part which is maybe more complex to understand and more difficult to analyze. It's the group part. In 42, we have did many tests. It doesn't work under 200 students. It means that if you make a group of under 200 students, it seems not to work. We work a lot with a French neuro department of a university and try to understand. It's what we call a marathon effect. When you are in a group, as human, you are kind of carried by the group. Like when you take, I don't know if you run, I don't run anymore, you see, that's it, I guess. But when you are in a marathon, you see everyone has very much better engagement than when he does it alone. Even so, it's exactly the same thing. So the fact to be in a group as human makes you able to go over I would say, your psychological limits. Okay, so when you start to have this kind of group effect, each student, even so, they don't interact. Okay, we have been, for example, doing experiment. We have students. You make students. In 42, we receive 1,000 students each year. In statistics, they will interact with around 20 to 30. That means they will work with around 20 to 30 and speak around to 50. So we try to isolate those 50. It doesn't work anymore. Okay? That means that the fact that you are in a room with many people around you make you able to go over your own capability. So there is a kind of strength coming from the part of being something bigger than yourself, which makes the students able to change themselves deeply in a confident way, because there is other people that trust that it's a good way to do it. Okay. So that's two processes combined, I think, explain most of the education. Second part, you ask me, how do they learn? The question is not really how do they learn, it's what do they learn. Because of course if the idea is to have a set of knowledge at the end of the process, it's much more efficient to bring the knowledge to the students. But that's not what we need. We don't need people that know a list of knowledge, because we don't know what is the list. We are not able to make the list of what the students will need in 10 years. And in IT more than any field, but today in all fields, okay, we are having a lot of IA coming out, okay? We don't know what's going on. We don't know what someone who is going to do marketing will do in 10 years. No one can predict that. What we can predict, that is very different than what we do today. Okay? So that means when we teach the way of today, we are sure we are wrong. Okay? So we have to make students more creative, more flexible, to adapt of what is going to go on. But we don't need to have students who already know stuff. Okay? And I don't know if you listen I was listening the speech of Jack Ma, who explains that we are doing very bad robots. That's it. We are clearly now training people to something that we clearly know that is not what we need. Okay? Mainly because we don't know to do anything else. Okay? Just because it's clear that it's difficult to have said that we don't know. It's always, as humans, we like to be in a secure environment, but the whole idea of creativity is this capability to take risk. Okay, so we have to make people more open to share, and if they are self-confident, you know, when you make a student, when you explain to students how to do something, at the end of the day, he knows how to do something. Okay, he's happy, but he knows that. When you make a student in front of a problem and he solves it by himself with his friend, okay, he gets confident. He says, okay, so when there is a new problem, okay, I will find friends and we will make it. We are strong. We made it by ourselves. We don't need some teacher who explains us how to make it. Okay, and if you get it, you make it very simple for start and harder at the end. The guy gets confidence. Say, okay, I have solved maybe 200 problems during these last 2 years, which were very simple for start, but at the end very complex. And why? If I have a new problem, which is coming up, it will happen in future. We know that we will have new problems. I know that if I find the right team and we correctly work together, we will solve it. Just because I did it in the past. Okay, so we make, in first, people who are able to collaborate and to co-create solutions and to have enough confidence in themselves and in their group to solve solution.
Thank you very much. 아주 길게 답해 주셨는데요. 핵심이 아직까지는 좀 추상적으로 들리실 수 있겠지만 학습자에 대한 굉장히 믿음이 있는 것 같고요. 제가 볼 때는 믿고 그리고 이제 강제하기보다는 조금 즐거운 환경을 만들어주고 챌린지를 좀 즐길 수 있는 환경을 만들어주고 그다음에 상황적이고 실용적인 지식 위주로 배우게끔 하면은 가능하다라는 그 가능성을 제시를 해주시는 것 같습니다. 그다음에 사실은 질문 굉장히 많이 올라왔는데 저 마음이 급했는데요. 그래도 이제 공감 높은 순으로 지금 해주시는 게 맞는 것 같아가지고요. 아무래도 이제 배우는 그 과정에 대해서 제가 질문을 드렸고 또 많이 궁금해하시는 게 그러면 학생 선발과 졸업인 것 같습니다. 처음과 마지막에 대해서 좀 궁금해하시는 것 같은데요. 입학생을 선발하는 그 기준, 그 다음에 또 졸업하는 기준이 있다면은 어떻게 운영하셨는지 답변 부탁드립니다. 선발과 졸업에 대해서 질문이 들어왔습니다.
Okay, so I have to read it to remove this. So we select students on a process of 2 steps. We have a first step which is online, which is a step where we select mainly cognitive skills. So it's small video games, and in those video games we will target cognitive skills, which are basic cognitive skills to be sure that they are able to fulfill. Then, usually out of this, around 20% of people who try the test are selected. Then we ask them to come in the school and spend 4 weeks in the school during a selection process we call piscine, which means swimming pool in English, which is a kind of hands-on situation where they have to do challenge every day with the others. So it's mainly the same process what we do later, but faster, just to select the students who are able to fulfill it. We do that mainly because we have a lot of appliers, and we are limited in the resource. So to find the people who are the most fast capable to solve the situation. Okay, I believe that we could mainly not select students. Okay, in the Web Academy, for example, the school before, we didn't select students. We took every student. Okay. The problem with 42, we have too much appliers. You know, just we opened the school lately in Moscow. Okay. We had in 2 weeks 120,000 appliers. So you have to select. Okay. And we select the people who have the most probability to make it. Okay. After we don't have. Okay, we say we don't have curriculum. So mainly the best way to imagine the stuff, it's that you imagine a video game like World of Warcraft, where you remove dungeons and you put an IT challenge. And there is, when a student make a challenge, okay, he make a group, he makes the challenge, he solve it, the software will design other students to grade it, okay, to say, we don't grade with number, we say, okay, he pass it or he doesn't pass it. So it's just like if you are in dungeons, you make it, you are inside or you are not, okay? So when he get it, he will get experience point, just like in a video game. If you get higher experience point, your level will grow, and when your level grow, you access higher challenge. That's very standard. And we say mainly students is done when it's level 21. We decide arbitrary level, which means that the students had enough experience to be ready to work in company. Behind that, it means that we do believe that there is no field. That's important. A student who is doing, for example, some IA program, okay, or a student who is doing a cybersecurity program, or another student who is doing blockchain, is learning exactly the same thing. Because what the knowledge has no value. It's not the knowledge which is important. It's the fact that he's able to take a problem, to make a team, and to solve it. And that's the same process for all kinds. So it means that when a student came out for 42, he's level 21. Maybe he has done only IA. Maybe he has done only blockchain. Or maybe he has done a bit of IA, a bit of blockchain, a bit of something. He has done maybe video games. We do believe it's exactly the same guy because he is able to work with people and find solutions. And of course, he has passion. Maybe he loves to do video games. He loves to create video games. And of course, he's going to work in video games because he doesn't want to be, he wants to be happy when he go to work. Okay, of course, he will choose to work with this company. But he has exactly the same skills that if we need to go to work in a blockchain company. Maybe he won't make it because it's for him. For example, he thinks that bank is evil and he won't be able to work for a financial institution, whatever. He has his own feeling. But he has a capability because when you solve a problem with certain complexity in something by yourself, that's very important. It's by yourself. You made it by yourself with your bodies. Okay, you are able to make the same thing in other field by yourself with your body if you are interested. So that's the whole process. So we don't believe that you need to have a list of stuff. You have a list of complexity, a list of interaction. For example, they have to pass through some specific stuff, like they have to work in a big team, like 20. Okay, that's part of what the challenge, what we expect, because and also a lot of people say, oh, you are a school where there is no teacher, so where is the human interaction? Guys, there is 1,000 more time human interaction in a school without a teacher. When you have a teacher speaking, students listen. When there is no teacher, they speak each other. So you have much more human interaction in a school. The teacher is removing the human interaction because he's focalizing the speech. Okay, when you make the students speak together, students in 42 spend 80% of this time to argue with other students. And they manage something which is very important, is complexity. Because when you have a teacher, you have someone who speaks the truth. He knows the absolute truth. When another student tells you something, you don't know if it's totally true. You know, usually when normal students, they will have a problem, and he will speak to his friend says, oh, I guess you should do it that way. Another one say, you should do it another way. So you are always in a complex situation where you have to take choice, take decision, to test it. Sometimes you fail, you have to go back. It's much simpler to have a teacher who tell you, okay, that's the truth, learn it, apply. It's much easier. When you are in really situation where you have no one who tell you a solution, you have to manage complexity. And that's exactly what we need in a situation where you have to create new stuff. You have to manage a very complex situation when you don't know at all what's going on. Okay, it's very easy to apply absolutely true knowledge. It's very complex to manage a situation where you are around with maybe 20 or 30 people who tell you different stuff. Okay, and you have to take a decision collectively. And also you are not alone to decide because you are a group of 5 or maybe 10, and you have to take a decision out of 10 persons and make without no one who is a chief. You have to find a decision, a process to get everyone engaged in it. And not the group explodes, because if you are taking something, a decision, and the group split, you fail. So you have to engage everyone in the same situation. It's a very complex human situation, much more complex than just applying process of a group. Like in a normal class, you just have to understand what the teacher explained you, find how to apply in the situation they gave you, but there is always a reference. It's the teacher. It just gives you what is the solution. Okay. After you can argue to how you understand it, but you can't totally change the game.
Okay, thank you. 시간 관계상 지금 마지막 질문 드리고 짤막하게 드리고 세션 맞춰야 될 것 같습니다. 아무래도 여러분들도 궁금하시고 아마 강연 중에 잠깐 언급이 됐던 것 같은데요. 한국의 에콜 42를 만드실 계획이 있는지 그 상황에 대해서 알고 싶습니다.
Oh, I am sorry, because I am not really updated of that. I have been. That's very interesting because Korea it's one of the first I think I even think it's the first country which contact 42s. I mean, they came like we were less than 1 year old when we meet the first people of Korea. So and they came maybe five times to meet us and to understand, because at start they were kind of not understanding what's going on. And I don't know how, because in the first years when we start 42, we did not have students out because it takes 3 years. We had a little bit of article in France, but not much outside. So I don't really know how people from Korea came, but they came and asked us, what are you doing? It seems to be interesting. So it's a very long process. When I left, we were on almost the point to start this experimentation. And I have no more update on this. I know that it's going on. And I think it will start this year, if I remember. But it was on a process. And it's very interesting because we had only in Asian people who do it from the government. Most of the other schools are based for private individual or companies. That's the approach of Asian are very different. They took a long time. We met a lot of people. I came here twice to meet people and stuff. So it's kind of long process, but maybe deeper. I think if you look at the stuff, a school like 42 should be funded by state. Okay? But it's very difficult because, the problem in the state, you have, at least in Europe, you have regulation, norms, and stuff like this. Of course, you are a big system. In France, we have like 3 million teachers. So you have to organize. It's difficult to make innovation in a so big situation. Okay, so it's kind of what I see. So in Korea, it's very interesting because you have you have both. You have a very structured system, but still open to try stuff, which is much more difficult in Europe. Okay, for many reasons of the process of accreditation to validate stuff, so that no one is using the public money doing anything. So this kind of process. So you have more private sector which is trying to improve stuff, and after the public take it, but it takes much longer.
네, 설립 조건 같은데 좀 제한점은 있겠지만 약간 설립에 대해서 한국에 설립하는 거에 대해서 대화는 오고 갔다라고 말씀해 주셨습니다. 자, 그럼 이제 기조강연 2를 마무리하도록 하겠습니다. 다시 한번 좋은 강연과 말씀해 주신 니콜락 사드라님께 큰 박수 부탁드리겠습니다.